We all know those popular states that everyone wants to move to: Texas, Idaho, North Carolina, and Florida, to name a few. But will these states still be popular in 5 years or maybe 10 years? Some people say no. They think that the popularity for these states is dying as we speak. Some have been overhyped and now are suffering from their own success. The states on this list are currently some of the best and most popular states we have, and they might just become some of the worst states in the next 5 or 10 years. Now, there's a whole bunch of reasons for this. Obviously, one of the biggest ones is real estate. When a place gets popular, prices rise. We're going to go over some of the other reasons each state has, but the one that's constant through all of them is real estate prices. Let's look at these states and why you'll regret moving there in the coming years. Number 10, Tennessee. Everyone shows up in Tennessee carrying the same quiet confidence, like they just solved a riddle the rest of the country has missed. They talk about no income tax in a way that people talk about a secret menu item. They mention music, friendliness, porch weather. They say they got in at the right time, usually while standing in front of a half-empty house with beige walls. And for a while, they're right. Life feels lighter, bills look smaller, the move feels bold and smart and just rebellious enough to brag to people back home. They post pictures of sunsets and barbecues. They tell people things like, "You should really think about Tennessee," like they're passing along a gift. Then the reality hits them, lightly at first, with things like bad traffic in the larger cities. You're not supposed to have traffic like Memphis and Nashville have when you're such a laid-back state. The roads were designed when the population was half cow, half pickup truck. Everyone's confused, but everyone's patient for now. 10 years from now, it's going to be gridlock just like every other major city that's been growing. Then, of course, you got to start talking about the real estate. It's not cheap anymore. It pounces on you. The house that felt like a steal suddenly feels like a gamble. Property taxes edge up. Insurance letters arrive with cheerful language and bad news inside. Locals stop smiling when you ask, "So what did this place used to cost?" Then, of course, there's the healthcare. Tennessee was never really knocking it out of the park over the last handful of decades with healthcare. I mean, it's decent, but not compared to states like South Carolina and Kentucky and even North Carolina. But now with such an influx of people moving in, appointments are harder to get, and it's starting to get a little more expensive. You also got some friction with cultural and political realities. This is a red state that is slowly turning into a blue state. Longtime locals aren't digging the change. Tennessee didn't trick anyone. It didn't bait and switch. It did exactly what a booming place always does. It rewarded the early arrivals with space and affordability, then charged everyone else a premium for showing up late. Tennessee isn't a bad place to move to. It's just not a secret anymore, and that's gonna lay out a rough road for them in 5 to 10 years. Basically, if you moved here in 2020, you didn't discover Tennessee, you confirmed it was already full. Over the last 5 years, their population has grown 5.8%, which is a pretty good jump. Now, their statewide median home price was $230,000 back in 2020. And right now it's $339,000. That's up about 47.3%. So what will be the main drivers of the regret? Overcrowded, real estate, cost of living. Number 9, Idaho. Idaho was sold as a deep breath, a place where the noise faded and life got simpler. Mountains in the horizon, space between houses, mornings that felt earned instead of rushed. People didn't just move there, they escaped to Idaho. Or at least that's what they told themselves they were doing. They arrived and immediately found out they weren't the only ones that had escaped to Idaho. They ran into a bunch of people that were new to the state and they were enjoying it. They also ran into a bunch of people that had been there forever and they weren't enjoying it. Idaho, and especially some of the major cities like Coeur d'Alene and Boise, are basically a pressure cooker wrapped in pine trees. Over the last 20 years, and especially the last 5, real estate prices have jumped up in Idaho. They didn't just rise politely, they kind of vaulted. Wages stayed where they were, like they didn't get the memo that everything's going up. Roads lagged, services stretched thin, and locals didn't get angry, which would have been easier to process. They got tired. You hear it in the pause before they answer. You hear it when someone says, "It didn't used to be like this." Then the winter shows up and finishes the conversation. Not the snow. Idaho can handle the snow. It's the length of it, the darkness that lingers, the quiet that stops feeling peaceful and starts feeling heavy. Idaho doesn't hand you a social life. It expects you to bring one fully assembled. If you don't, the silence doesn't comfort you, it sits with you. A lot of the states up in this part of the country, they break a lot of people when the winter shows up. You move up there from Southern California to Coeur d'Alene because it's beautiful, and you left the beaches of Los Angeles and you end up there and you do 2 winters and you head back down to California. That happens a lot. Idaho works if you arrive with money, family, and a reason to stay put. Everyone else figures it out when the views stop feeling new and the stillness starts asking questions. People moved to Idaho for freedom and discovered it comes with bylaws, meetings, and a waiting list. So why do people regret Idaho? Well, winter, the locals, because they don't dig you moving there, and of course the real estate. In 2020, the median home price in Idaho was $285,000. Right now, it is $444,000. That's up about 55.9%. Now, I'm talking about the whole state, and you're going to have some extremely expensive areas and some extremely affordable areas. Overall, the percentage is how much it rose statewide. Number 8, Arizona. Arizona lies by omission. Yes, the sun is real. So is the heat that traps you indoors for months at a time. People don't move to Arizona to become indoor creatures, but that's exactly what happens. Summer isn't uncomfortable, it's limiting. Believe it or not, there are temperatures, even when they're warm, that some people can't handle. I'm one of them. If you move me to Arizona, I'm going to be one of the people that sits indoors all summer. If you get 3 feet of snow, I'll be outside. And a lot of people realize this once they get to a desert state. They leave someplace like Minnesota, North Dakota, something like that, and then they get down there and they're happy about the sun. Then they realize how battering that sun can be to your psyche. So when you move there, your life shrinks. Walking becomes a chore, outdoor plans disappear, electric bills spike, cars age faster, and that desert dream starts feeling like a long-term trade you didn't fully understand. And that's before you have the water conversations. Arizona is dry as a bone. They're building so much they have serious water restrictions. Once you get over that, you have the realization that housing isn't cheap enough anymore to justify the sacrifices. That's when you have that quiet thought, why am I paying this much to avoid going outside? Arizona doesn't scare people away, it exhausts them slowly at first. Then it picks up momentum. If you can't comfortably exist outside half the year, that's not a good thing. So why will people regret it? First of all, the heat. Absolutely, 100%. The real estate, and then of course there's the crowds. Arizona's become increasingly popular over the last 20 years. Since 2020, they've already gained 6.6% of their population. They're all the way up to 7.6 million. Give you an idea how fast they've risen? In the 1970s, they were 1.7 million. Every single decade, they've gained double digits, and some, like in 1980, it was 53%. Then in 2000, it was up 40%. It's been pretty rough. Here's the home prices. In 2020, the average home value was $293,000. In 2025, it was $421,000. Number 7, North Carolina. North Carolina is marketed as a compromise that actually works. Mountains on one side, beaches on the other, jobs, college, mild winters, a little southern charm without going full postcard. It sounds like a balance, the kind of place where you don't have to choose extremes, where life is supposed to land softly somewhere in the middle. At first it does. One town feels energetic, another feels calm. You can drive an hour and feel like you've changed states. That variety is the pitch. What people don't realize is the contrast cuts both ways. One school district shines, one hospital feels modern and accessible, drive a little further and healthcare turns into a wait list and long drives. Growth moves fast, but the roads, utilities, and services jog behind, always trying to catch a breather. People arrive thinking they found the sweet spot before everyone else did. Then the traffic thickens, commutes stretch just enough to matter.